Okay, today's lesson is looking at GST, particularly adding GST onto prices. So GST is a relatively important part of the government's taxation system. So obviously tax is money that's paid to the government to pay for services like hospitals, schools, and all the other things that governments do. It was introduced in the 1980s as a way of generating money, and with the view of some people that it was a fairer system because the more you consumed, the more you had to pay, rather than it being a flat rate for everybody, or uh, replacing a complicated tax system. So it's basically a tax on spending. So anything you spend money in retail or services, GST is added on. And the rate that it's added on is 15%. So 15% of everything you buy, whether it's from the shop, online stores, whether it's a gym, anything like that, you pay 15% of it to the government. So we describe GST inclusive price is a price that the GST tax has already been added on. An exclusive price is the price where the 15% isn't included. Now, in various situations, you have to pay GST, and in some situations, you can actually claim it back. We'll discuss that more in another lesson. So the key thing is we've got, you may not have noticed it before, but on most receipts, they have information about GST. So it's businesses like New World that pay the GST. You don't pay it, so it's included in the price. So you'll see here it shows the New World store's GST number, and that's something that's registered with the IRD, which is the Inland Revenue Department, which collects all the tax. And the other thing that the receipt includes is includes how much you're actually paying, including GST. And on some receipts, it will say actually that there is, it will have how much GST you're paying. But GST calculations are just an example of a percentage increase. And going back to what this diagram that we've looked at before, is it's exactly the same as a 15% increase. So the key thing that we need to know is obviously working out the multiplier. So the multiplier is 100% plus 15% because it's an increase. If it was a decrease, that would be a minus, remember. And divide by 100, you get the multiplier 1.15. So simply all we do for we take an exclusive price, get an inclusive price with the GST included, is that we times it by 1.15. Now this is slightly different from the previous increases we did where I gave you different percentages. With GST, it's always 15%. So because of that, in some questions, it may not tell you that it's 15%. So it is a number you need to remember. So looking at our questions down here, down the bottom, find the GST inclusive price of the following. So $200 is simply going to be 200 times 1.15, which gives us $230. So the $230 would be what you would pay in the store. What would generally happen with most supermarkets or other businesses is they work out how much profit they want to make, how much the actual item costs, and then they would put the GST on top of that price. So in this scenario, the item costs the business $200, and we to put the GST on, we have to charge another $30. The next one for 430 times 1.15, gives us 494.50. The last one, 1375 with GST put on, so it's 13.75 times 1.15. Is equal to 15.8125. Now, obviously, we don't normally include any decimals lower than a cent. So that's 2 decimal places. So we should always round it to 2 decimal places, which in this case gives us $15.81. So that's basically it for GST. It's really simple, just a 15% increase. So there's a task for you to complete in your book, which you can do now. Sorry, on OneNote, which you can do now.